Ronnie Blaze. What's up, my man? It's Chris Van Vliet. Congrats to you on your podcast, and congrats to you on the best podcast name that I think I've ever seen. The Rodcast Podcast Show? That's brilliant. The Rodcast Podcast Show. Incredible. Who wouldn't want to be on the Rodcast Podcast Show? Man, and I'm sure I'll see you down the road real soon.
The Rodcast Podcast Show.
What's up, man?
What's up, man? Oh, damn. What's going on, Chris?
How are you?
Pretty good, man. Yeah. First of all, man, virtually, it's great to meet you, man.
Well, likewise. Virtually great to meet you.
Yeah, man, dude. Thank you, dude. I'm going to steal one of your lines, man. Thank you so much for making this happen.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? It's about making this stuff happen.
Yeah, man. See what wrestling does.
Look, if it wasn't for wrestling, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah, honestly, man, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Here we go. I'm about to say it. Chris, welcome to the Rodcast Podcast Show, man.
Rodcast podcast.
No, you
The
did
Rodcast
not.
Podcast Show.
Oh my God, what? Oh my God, what? I was not expecting that. Oh my God. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
It might be the catchiest intro of any podcast I've ever heard.
Thank you, man. My brother actually made that for me.
It's like a real radio show. I might have to get your brother to make one for my show.
Yeah. Hey,
Jeez.
Justin Roberts is a pretty good, you know what I mean?
It's great, but I mean, it's Rodcast podcast. Very catchy.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I was not expecting that. Perfect way to start this conversation, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you reaching out.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Man, it was a mission. I'm not gonna lie. And like I said on when I DM'd you on Cameo, I don't think this is the best platform to be asking him this.
Well, at least on there, like for sure, I can read it. So no,
Yeah.
You do what I do. You think outside the box.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I mean, I'm gonna assume Instagram, Twitter, and what else? Email. I'm gonna assume it's just flooded. So in my head, I'm like, I think Cameo is probably less crowded with people trying to reach out.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean,
Yeah.
look, and I'm getting a tiny fraction of the emails that most people are getting, but yeah, brilliant. So here we are. We're making it happen.
I know, right? Man, so dude, first of all, congratulations, dude, on the YouTube channel, the podcast, man. Dude, I've been subscribed for like well over a year, man. And dude, you're the GOAT, man. So just want to get that out there.
That's very kind. Thank you, man. This is my thing now,
Yeah.
TV host is my background, but this is the main thing I'm doing now. And I love it.
Yeah, man, you got interviews coming like left and right, man. It's like, it is crazy, man.
I'm trying to do. Look, I just want to talk to interesting people and share those conversations. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Okay. So like when this whole thing started, you think some of these interviews wouldn't have happened if this whole pandemic didn't happen?
Oh, they would absolutely not have happened. No, and I was very much not interested in doing Zoom interviews or, Skype interviews for my own stuff because I love the interaction that you have when you meet someone in person. I love being able to shake someone's hand, look them in the eyes. So when the world, started experiencing this in March, I just kind of had to pivot because the world was pivoting.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, the short answer is no, but like the longer version of that is like people's schedules are now like more opened up. Obviously, unfortunately, WWE had the releases that they had. So, those people probably wouldn't have been available. But look, I heard someone refer to this as the great pause. And I love that. I love the way that they frame that. It is. It's a chance to pause and think about what's important to you, who's important to you. And I just realized that I love doing this. I love having conversations with people. And if it's like this virtually or it's in person, still a conversation. So yeah, I'm really fortunate to still be able to keep trucking on and doing this.
Yeah. At this point, do you think there's any wrestler, whether any promotion that doesn't know you at this point?
I'm sure.
You know what I mean? Okay, so has there been a wrestler or anybody in general that you've interviewed that you reached out, and they, they're unfamiliar with you? Has that happened?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like it's every time. Like, in fact, when someone is like, "Oh yeah, man, I know who you are," or, "Oh, I've listened to your thing," I'm like, "Really? You have?"
Yeah.
I've had a few, and I don't want to name names here, but I've had a few where I reach out to them and they're like, "Oh, like, could you send your link to your YouTube channel?" "Oh yeah, here it is." Then I don't hear back from them like ever, and I'm like,
uh,
"Oh, so okay, I guess this isn't happening." I met someone recently, and we were at like a wrestling event, a wrestling show, and I said, "Oh man, I'd love to have you on my show." They're like, "Oh, like, so what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, like, I have this YouTube channel and podcast, and yeah, it'd be great to have you on." And then someone who I'd interviewed before jumped into the conversation. They're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you want to be on his show?" And I'm like, "Oh, oh, thank you. Okay, all right." But yes, I do not expect anything from anybody. I don't expect anybody to be aware of who I am or what I do at all.
yeah, I heard the conversation you had with Thunder Rosa, and she was like, "Oh yeah, man, like you're famous, man. I got to be on your show."
Yeah, she's like, you got to give me the rub. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you being on here is good for me. Like,
Yeah. Same thing with you, man. You being on my show, dude, it's good for me, man. So I hope this.
oh, well, good. I'm happy to help out because you're helping me out.
Yeah.
Again, I love to have great conversations, no matter which side of the mic I'm on.
Yeah. I wanna know as a fan, what is Chris Van Vliet's morning routine?
Oh, I love this. We're diving right into the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to give a shout out to Tim Ferriss because he's one of the OG podcasters. If anyone, is not aware of who he is, he's the author of 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Body. The Tim Ferriss Show is his podcast, calls himself a human guinea pig. And it was in listening to his podcast where he was breaking down people's morning routine. And it's that whole concept of like, win the morning, win the day, win the day, win the week, win the month, and so on and so on. So I really started to like actually start having a morning routine maybe in the last 2 years or so, because it's so easy to just like get up and then just like, let the day take you. And I think that if you don't seize the day will seize you. So I stay away from my phone for the first 30 minutes of the day, which is very difficult to do. Especially if I just had a video that dropped. I'm now living in California, so videos are dropping like while I'm sleeping, and I'm like, oh, I hope everything technically was okay with that. But I'm like, yeah, so I'll just figure it out, fight that fire if there's a fire, when I start to look at my phone. But I will wake up and immediately drink a big glass of water. And I think that that's an important thing because you sweat so much in your sleep, you start to get dehydrated. So boom, immediately drink a big glass of water. I will read. I made it a thing where I want to read every single day. And I'm not talking like reading a chapter, reading, 100 pages or something. I just want to read. And I read a book called Small Habits. And it talked about like how if you can just make a promise to yourself to do one push-up, read one page, run 10 steps, then your body will start to be like, oh, this is easy. I can do more than one push-up. I can read more than one page. So I try to read I read at least 2 pages every day. And then I will go to the gym. So that's all part of my morning routine. I'll, check my phone like on my way to the gym, but like, that's all like really important stuff. And meditating is like a really important part of my day as well. It's just like helping you to get like centered and helping you to like, our entire day is making decisions. Our entire day is like fighting off all the bad stuff that's coming towards us. And meditation is just like a chance to just kind of like center yourself down to like, figure out what's important. I heard someone describe this as like, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill, and you meditating is just your chance to kind of like hold the boulder there, because the rest of the time you're either pushing it or the boulder's pushing you. And it's like just your chance to just like kind of stand there and be like, okay, like I'm able to kind of look around and see everything that's going on around here. So great question to start things off here.
Thank you. Meditation, man. Like, how did you get into that?
I downloaded the Headspace app, and I'm not by any means like sponsored by them, but I'm a big believer that success leaves clues. Tony Robbins always says that. So I was listening to all these other podcasts, and almost every successful person was saying that meditation was a big part of their day. And I'm like, well, I can't ignore this anymore. If everybody else across the board is meditating and I'm not, I'm clearly missing out on something. So that was really where it began. I downloaded Headspace, and it basically teaches you how to do it. And for anyone who hasn't meditated, it sounds so silly. It's just sit there and do nothing for 10 minutes. But when you really think about it, in our daily lives, especially when we have this thing in our pocket, there's really very few moments in our day when we sit and actually do nothing. We're always trying to do something or trying not to do something. So I was just like, if everybody else is doing this, I got to do it. And it just helps you to kind of like realize thoughts as they're coming into your mind, realize thoughts as they're coming in. And then maybe you can just take a split second to think about something before you do it, rather than just being as reactive as we normally are.
Anybody who has you on social media, we know what you do during the day, whether you're eating In-N-Out, eating some pizza, going on hikes. So, anybody who has you on social media, we're familiar with what you do during the day. So now fast forward, we got morning routine. So how about nighttime routine? Nighttime routine.
Nighttime routine's probably not as exciting. I'd love to say, like, everyone's like, oh, you should not use your phone for an hour before bed. I'm like, well, my entire like job revolves around my phone, so I should probably be holding this. And that's between doing interviews and social media, but also I own and run a bass fishing company. I'm very passionate about bass fishing, and the things that I'm passionate about, I dive all the way in on it. So we're running an e-commerce store, an e-commerce company called Tungsten. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah. So, constantly like dealing with emails and stuff with that. So the nighttime routine is really just as simple as like, I don't eat a ton before going to bed. I will probably stop eating 2-ish hours before bed. And I really think that helps with like sleep. I've just moved into this apartment 2 months ago, and the air conditioner is really loud when it kicks on. So I have to turn it so the fan is just constantly blowing, or else like every 15, 20 minutes, the fan's going to like kick on and be like super loud. So that's a really important part of my bedtime routine. And also, like, I got to go to the bathroom. If I don't go to the bathroom, we're talking number one here. Yeah. If I don't go to the bathroom right before I go to bed, I know that at 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, I'm going to be like, now I want to get out of bed and go pee.
I feel like the tiredness goes away a little bit when you have to get up. When you go back to your bed after you go to the bathroom, you're like,
right. But I prioritize sleep. Like, I get 7 to 9 hours every night, no matter what. I prioritize it. Even if I'm super busy, even if I'm traveling, whatever, I make sure to get that much sleep. And I think that's a really, really important thing.
Awesome. And you're in LA right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles. You're also in California, right?
Yeah, I'm in Oxnard. So I'm like an hour away from you, man.
What's it called?
Oxnard.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Story of my life, man.
You have an In-N-Out there?
Yeah. Literally like 10, 15 minutes away from my house.
Well, that's all that matters.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I'm like an hour away from you. That's why when you said Eastern time, I'm like, I thought this guy lives in LA.
Right. Well, I just feel like Eastern time is like what everybody's on.
Yeah.
Like, even if you live in Central time or Mountain time, like Eastern time, just, I don't know, across the board seems to make sense.
Yeah, I recently got a cameo from Greg Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling me too that he lived in LA for a few years, and he's like next time I'm out there, man, we gotta get a beer, man. And
he's such a good dude. Yeah.
I know.
Me, you and Greg Hamilton should all hang out. He's such a good guy.
Hey man, we gotta speak that into existence, man.
We just did.
Hey, let's go. I'm gonna hold you to that. It was really cool. I told him to announce me, so it was pretty cool. He's like, from Oxnard, California, weighing in at 175 pounds, Roddy Blaze. It was so cool.
Amazing.
It was so cool.
Well, I think the broadcast podcast intro might be getting changed now.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna use that for sure. I'm probably gonna post it like on Instagram or something. But that was so cool when I got it. It was so cool. Your fans who leave reviews on your podcast, which, by the way, if you haven't left a review, what are you doing? They're
so important.
I know, right? They constantly say that they like your interview style. So for you, do you see it as a style, or is that just the way, you talk, you have a conversation with people?
Yeah, that's a great question, Roddy. And it's something I actually have worked on for a long time because it's funny. Everybody thinks that interviewing is easy. And I
Oh,
think that Ryan Seacrest said this best. And he was like paraphrasing Dick Clark. He said, if people think that my job's easy, that means I'm doing it right. And I'm like, that's so good. And I remember early on in my career, and I started my broadcasting career in 2005 on television. And I remember like my interviews just being, and I was working in news at the time. So like you didn't need to hear my questions, but I've been a firm believer in the quality of your life is the quality of the questions that you ask. So the better questions that you ask, the better the answers will be that you get. And I remember like looking at my interviews back then, it was just like question, answer, question, answer. And I was growing up in Canada, so there was a broadcaster there that I really looked up to named George Stroumboulopoulos. And he had a talk show there. And he was just so laid back, so easygoing. And I was like, I want to like aspire one day to have like 1% of George Stroumboulopoulos' like just he's so intuitive, he's so insightful, and he's just so conversational. And that was someone who I really looked up to. Also, before Joe Rogan was a podcaster, I was a huge fan of Joe Rogan's broadcasting style on Fear Factor. And I think like a lot of broadcasters, especially when, mid 2000s, a lot of them like were very, very hosty. And I didn't want it, like Seacrest is the best, right? Seacrest is the top of the top right now. And his radio show, I think, is actually a really good example of how good he is at being able to like flow and like change with the moment and like really adapt to who his guest is. But when you watch like Seacrest hosting something where he's reading off his teleprompter, he just sounds like a host. And I never wanted to sound like hosty. I never wanted people to know that I was reading a teleprompter. I wanted it to sound like a real conversation. And that was something I like really, really, really worked on. And yeah, something I'm still working on a lot now. Because the basis of an interview is still like, I ask a question and you answer that question. And, we kind of go from there. So yeah, it's been something I've worked on. It's something I will continue to work on. And I'm a big believer that if you don't look at your old stuff and cringe a little bit, then you're not moving in the right direction.
So, you say, you're still working on this. So I'm going to assume, you've made some mistakes. So my question is, what would you say is your favorite mistake that because you made that mistake, it led to something like way, way better?
Man, I mean, I make a lot of mistakes. Every single day I'm making mistakes. I think a lot of it has just been like in the way that I would approach interviews. I think that was a mistake early on. It was like I was always trying to find a moment. And it's, when you're doing interviews and they're like movie junket interviews and they're 4 minutes long, you want to try to make the best of those 4 minutes. And I think really early in my career, I was trying to make those moments too much about me. I was trying to make those moments like, hey, look at this cool thing that I did with, insert name of famous person here. And I think I started to realize as I got older and like kind of pursued my career or, got further along in my career that I realized these are never about me. I'm so aware that nobody clicks on my podcast. Nobody clicks on my YouTube channel to hear me talk. And in fact, I think I'm going to change the name of my show from the Chris Fay and Vliet Show because the show's never been about me. It's always been about highlighting my guests and everything that they have going on in their life. So I think that was a big thing was just because you're on TV, just because you're on the radio, doesn't mean that like you're important or you're significant. Like you're just a vessel through which the stories of other people can be told. And I think that was a really, like nothing specific happened in those moments, but that was just a big learning moment in general for me to go, yeah, let's shine the spotlight on them. And if, my toe happens to creep into that spotlight every once in a while, cool.
So I was going to ask you, what's your favorite interview, but I've noticed people ask you that already. And also too, you were right when you said that's like asking a parent who's their favorite child. So I do have a scenario for you that's kind of similar. So, okay, so let's say you meet somebody new and they're unfamiliar with your work. They have no idea that the people that you've interviewed, and meet somebody new, and then later they find out that that you interview celebrities, wrestlers. but they've never seen any of your videos. If that new person asks you, hey, show me one of your videos, which video would you show them?
Well, look at you rattling off all these great questions. Woo! I mean, I assume that nobody is aware of what I do at all. And I also assume that, and you should probably assume this too, that most people don't know wrestling.
Yeah.
So like, oh, you should check out this interview with some wrestler you've never heard of. So I usually will show people my highlight reel or my demo reel, which is like the main video. When you go to my YouTube channel, it's the main video that's there. And it's just some fun moments that I've shared over the last handful of years with The Rock and Denzel Washington and Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, so on. I'm not trying to drop names here, but I'm just trying to, make a point, Vin Diesel and, so I think that it's like, hey, I've been able to like do this really cool thing. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to interview some of the biggest stars in the world. And now I've been able to niche down on this niche of interviewing and now talk to like some of the biggest wrestling stars in the world. And but at the same time, I'm also doing interviews with a whole bunch of other people too. And that's the cool thing about this. Once again, this is why this isn't the Chris Van Vliet show. This is like the Chris Van Vliet interview so-and-so show. I don't know.
What did you mention in a previous interview? You were like the something show with Chris Van Vliet.
I honestly think that that's what it will end up turning into. And the reason is, for example, I just interviewed Andrew Yang. We had a great conversation that I really enjoyed. But if someone in the Yang gang, if one of his followers is looking for podcasts and comes across a list of podcasts and they see the Chris Van Vliet show, they're going to be like, what does that mean? Who's that guy? What's this conversation even going to be about? But if he's a guest on Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu or the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, I think that they go, oh, okay, we're going to talk about, impact on this one. We're going to talk about greatness on this one. So whenever the something with Chris Van Vliet show happens, it'll all make sense, I'm sure.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier how you said, oh, the person that I'm talking to probably doesn't know wrestling. So I want to ask you, okay, so at least in my experience of being a wrestling fan, in elementary school, it was like the coolest thing ever to be a wrestling fan. Junior high, it was okay. Then in high school, if you were a wrestling fan, I don't know, for at least in my experience, it was like, you like wrestling? Like I was like when it came to being a wrestling fan, I was a lone wolf in high school. It was like legit, like everybody told me the same thing. I'll be like, oh yeah, I used to watch wrestling.
Yep.
When I was a kid.
Yep.
Yeah. So did you ever go through anything like that in high school?
Yes. And when you would see someone in the halls wearing like an Austin 316 shirt or a DX shirt, you're like, oh my God, dude, you like wrestling too? And it's like that scene from Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Yep. So yes, for sure. But I was unapologetically a wrestling fan. And in 1998-ish, when I really got into wrestling, the Attitude Era, and it was Austin McMahon, I was like unapologetically a wrestling fan. And again, when I get passionate about something, like I'm all the way in on this thing.
Yeah.
So I was not, I would talk about wrestling every Tuesday morning at school, and like most people didn't care. I would quote wrestling. I would ask people questions just so I could shout "it doesn't matter" at them. Like this was me in high school. And I didn't care that like only 5 people in my high school watched wrestling. Actually, might have been more, because we had a backyard wrestling company, Backyard Wrestling Federation, in my high school. And it was like 8 people, 10 people in it. And like, not even all of them were like crazy hardcore wrestling fans, which I thought was really funny. But no, man, like I'm still a wrestling fan. And I understand that wrestling is cyclical. Unlike the NFL, where you only have to watch, 16 weeks a year plus playoffs, wrestling's every week. Wrestling's almost every day if you really want to dive into it. And I get that, like, that's a lot. That is a lot to pay attention to. Even if you're just watching WWE products, that's 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of NXT, 2 hours of SmackDown, some other shows peppered in there, and a pay-per-view. Like, that's 10 to 12 hours, 15 hours of wrestling a week. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I understand that some people watch it kind of, come and go, because wrestling is like death and taxes.
Mm.
Wrestling will always be
Yes,
there.
it'll always be there. Yeah, like I mean, I'm not gonna say I have like a lot of friends, but I mean, I have a decent amount of friends. I have one that still watches it to this day that I can still text and be like, "Oh, hey, did you see this? Did you see that?" Everybody else,
yeah.
everybody else in my circle, they it's like they watched it when they was a kid. So like, I can't talk to them about anything about that.
But I do love that wrestling breaks through. Like everybody knows the Ric Flair woo. Everybody knows who Macho Man is. You know, even if you're not a huge wrestling fan, if there's someone that's cheersing their beer and pouring it over their face, you know exactly who they're referencing. So I love that wrestling is in pop culture.
You mentioned your favorite match is Hogan versus Rock. What would be your favorite match from 2010 till now?
Wow, 2010 to now. Are there any to choose from? No. I mean, the correct answer is obviously the greatest match of all time, which is Edge and Randy Orton, right?
The greatest wrestling match ever.
So look, I understand that Rock Hogan is not like this technical masterpiece. I get that. It means a ton to me because yes, I was there. I was part of that insane crowd. I get goosebumps when I talk about it like every time, which is crazy. I think my favorite technical match of all time actually was in Impact Wrestling, and it was in TNA. It was the three-way dance between Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Christopher Daniels, which is, I think, the best match in TNA. It was unbelievable, and it really made me a huge fan of TNA. I think that if we look over the last 10 years, I'll actually give it to you from the last year and a half. I think it was Dustin versus Cody last year at Double or Nothing. And I mean, I was there for that one as well. So that, you know, it's special to me, but I just think that match was a real turning point in wrestling. It put AEW on the map. That match was so incredibly, insanely emotional. I've watched a lot of wrestling, as you have too, Roddy. And that match made me feel things that like I hadn't ever felt in a wrestling match before. I looked around the arena at the MGM Grand Garden, and there was like a whole bunch of people like crying. And I think that it was just combination of everything. You know, that was AEW making a statement that like, hey, we are here and we are the real deal. Yeah. Every match on that card was fantastic. And I think that match just capped it off of like, it's great wrestling with great storytelling and a ton of emotion. I think that it's got to be that match for me.
Awesome. Yeah. Being honest, I just officially hopped on the AEW train. I mean, I've seen like people retweet stuff from their events, but I've never actually paid attention to the product. I mean, I've seen glimpses of it, but I just recently hopped on the train. I followed all their social media, all that good stuff, subscribed to their YouTube channel. And something that I love about AEW, it's not, I mean, obviously it's the wrestling, the product, but what I loved about AEW is I was exposed, because I mean, I've watched WWE since I was 6. I'm 22 now. And so what I love about AEW is that I was exposed to all these new faces, all these new wrestlers. So that, for me, that's what I really, really enjoy. I was like, I mean, MJF, never heard of him up until AEW. Who else?
You can go down the list. Like
Jungle
Boy, and Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford.
Yeah, all those new wrestlers. Yeah, that's what I mainly love about AEW is that I'm getting exposed to all these new faces.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to realize that we're wrestling fans. We're all wrestling fans. And I think that too many people are pitting this as like WWE against AEW or NXT against AEW. It's like, it is possible. It sounds crazy, but it is possible to like stuff from more than one company.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's exciting to have options right now. Maybe you watch NXT one week and then maybe the next week you watch AEW, or maybe you DVR one of them. I don't know, but like, it's okay to like one and also like the other. And I think people are like, well, if you watch AEW, then why are you hating on WWE? No. It's okay to like everything.
I know, but I kind of like, I don't get mad, but I mean, like, I dislike when people post the viewerships on Twitter or like the ratings or whatever. Yeah, like that. I'm just like,
yeah. And look, and without getting too technical, the ratings are already like very skewed. So posting them, like, those aren't exactly accurate numbers when it's like, oh yeah, 768,000 people watched. No, no, that's not like someone didn't sit there and like count. Okay, 1, 2, 3. You know, that's not how it works. So it's a very archaic method, which I actually hope can get fixed eventually.
So something that I noticed watching your interviews is you typically, unless it's like a movie premiere, like when you interview celebrities, you're typically wearing a suit. But when you do interviews with wrestlers or just hanging out, you typically just wear t-shirt and jeans. But if you head over to your Instagram, like it's flooded with style. So I wanted to ask, where did the style inspiration come from?
Well, it's kind of like a product of having to, dress up because you're on TV. So for the first 5 years of my career, so my first job was news reporter. And I was hitting the road hard, like wearing, or carrying the camera and the tripod. So you wanted like functionality. So it was like a lot of polos and like khakis. But then when I went to my next job, I was on MTV2 Canada, and they wanted us to just be us. So it was jeans and t-shirts and like hats. And that was it. And then when I went to my next job, which was in Toronto, I was hosting a show called Inside Jam. They said, look, we hired you for you. So we don't have a dress code, just wear what you'd normally wear. So I just kind of continued that trend. And then I realized I was like going to red carpet events, wearing jeans and a t-shirt and skate shoes. And like everybody else was like dressed up. And I'm like, either I'm doing something wrong or they're doing something wrong. It's probably me. So I started dressing up a little bit more. Like I would wear the blazer over the t-shirts. And then I just kind of realized that the more I wore suits, the more like respect I would get. And it was actually pointed out to me when I moved to the US and I was still like wearing what I wore, a t-shirt and jeans, maybe like a button up every once in a while. And I went to do a movie junket interview, and it was for the movie Dinner for Schmucks. And they flew us to Los Angeles, and we went and saw the film. The next day we interviewed Paul Rudd, and we interviewed the whole cast, right? We interviewed the whole cast. And I remember seeing this guy there who was about my age, and he was dressed up in like a great suit, and people were just treating him a little bit differently. And I went, that's interesting. And he ended up becoming my friend. His name's Jake Hamilton. He's supremely talented entertainment reporter. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that because of the way he was dressed, it just like commanded a different level of respect. And the way he explained it was, my grandmother always said that if you want to show someone that you respect them, you dress up for them. And I went, wow, that's really true. It's also really powerful. And I don't even know if my friend Jake knows this or not, but that was actually what kind of jump-started it for me to like start wearing suits. And then once you start diving down that rabbit hole, it's like, oh, well, what color suit do I want to wear? What color tie do I want to wear? What's my liner going to look like? What kind of pocket square? And when you're wearing suits 5 days a week, you start to get creative with it. And that's really where this whole process began.
Yeah, I see some of your pictures, and like some of the shirts you wear too. I don't know if it was recently, but it was like a blue one and had like I forgot.
Oh, yeah. That's from a company called a fish named Fred. And I love those styles because those are the type of thing that when you wear them out in public, people go, hey, where'd you get that thing? A fish named Fred.
Yeah. All right. So I got to ask, how's the T Chanley been treating you?
Oh man.
Man,
so good.
When I saw you posted, I was like, no, because I've been using T Chanley since it came out. Since it started.
Yeah, I've been using it for about the last year, but I've been taking care of my skin, I'd say on a daily basis for like 5 years, and it helps so much.
Yeah.
Like especially in this industry where I'm on camera. Like, my job is I'm a TV host. It's important for me to like look half decent. So yeah, I started using T Chanley a year ago, and I don't want this to turn into like a huge ad for them, but you can use the coupon code Chris Van Vliet and get yourself a free toiletry bag. No, it's just they make it so easy. Like I think a lot of guys that are listening to this or watching this right now probably wash their face with the same stuff that they, same bar of soap that they're cleaning their ass with. And that's disgusting if you think about that. I didn't want to say that in my video, but I'll say it now. Yeah. And I think that it's so important to just like wash your face with something that's made for your face. And like the big thing for me was putting on a moisturizer that has SPF in it. I lived in Florida for 5 years. Now I'm living in California. It's sunny like 361 days a year here. And I think that it's important to have something on your face. Even if you're not laying out at the beach, just something, have something on your face to just protect yourself.
Yeah, I went the next step. I bought that not from T Challenge, but I bought that little spinning brush, the one that like you just put batteries in and then turn it on and it spins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought that thing. So I'm like, I put it on.
Hey, look at you.
Put it on my Snapchat. And I'm like, what y'all know about this?
It's honestly the greatest compliment when someone's like, "Oh, I didn't realize how old you were." I'm like, I'm not going out of my way to look young. I'm not like, not getting Botox or filler or anything like that. And if that's something that you do, then great. That's completely fine. That's your choice. I remember Brad Pitt saying that he never got any sort of surgery because he wanted to age gracefully. And I'm like, I love that. I love that idea of like, whatever's going to happen to my body, gravity is going to take its toll eventually. So maybe I can just slow the process down like 2%.
I think it's something that's completely opposite is when people look at you and you tell them your age, they'll be like, what? Like you look so much younger. For some reason, it's the complete opposite for me. Like,
yeah, you definitely look older than 22, but you should own this right now.
Yeah, like when I was 18 or 19, you know, I was working at Subway at the time, and customers will be like, oh, how old are you? And I would always say the same thing. I'll be like, how old do I look? And I'll get 27, 30, and I'm like, no. And then when I tell them how old I am, they'll be like, what? I thought you were older. So I'm like, oh my God, it's the beard, I think.
You were the guy who got alcohol without being carded when you were like 19, right?
No, I probably could have gotten away with it, but I actually didn't start drinking it until I was 21. But I probably could have.
What?
Yeah.
You might be the only person in the world who actually waited till the legal drinking age.
Yeah. I don't know. I only drink in special occasions. You know, I'm not a day-to-day drinker. You know, I don't get home from work and say, oh, I need a beer. Like,
me neither.
Only when there's a party or a get together, stuff like that. You know.
Yeah. I'm very much a social drinker now. Yeah. I mean, in college it was different. In college, like, just drank because that's what you did.
This is probably a too personal question, but have you ever gotten drunk? Like drunk?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah. Many times. Like, like this week? No.
Which
yeah. Oh my God. Like that was the goal every single night we went out in college was like, get as drunk as possible for the lowest, amount spent. So we would buy the cheap, and we lived in Canada, and alcohol is very expensive in Canada because of taxes. We'd buy the cheapest possible vodka, and we would do our best to not mix it with anything because if you bought mix, that would cost more money. Yeah. And in college, it was very important to not spend a lot of money. So yes, yeah, like I would say I had more nights where I wasn't drunk in college than I was drunk. Because that's just the college lifestyle. True.
Which drunk person are you? Because everybody knows there are different types of drunk people. There's the crier. There's the motivational speaker. There's the guy who swears he's not drunk and he's okay to drive. There's the guy that wants to fight everybody. and there's the party animal.
Yeah, I think I'm just the last. I just like it's this turned up like this is already turned up to like 10. So that's maybe like turned up to like 14. So yeah, just want to have a great time. Like I lived with 4 of my best friends. We had so many great friends in college. Yeah, it was just like, let's take a good time and make it even better.
I'm the party animal. Like for some reason, like okay, I want to tell you a quick story. So when I turned 21, that's when I first like got drunk, And okay, so my oldest brother, he invited one of his friends, and it was a female, and I knew her. She was my friend too. But that girl, she invited one of her friends that I did not know. So me, like right now, sober, obviously I'm like, and I found her attractive, So me now sober, I was like, I'd be shy as hell to go talk to her,
Yeah.
But because I was, taking shot after drink after shot after drink. For some reason, I went up to that girl and I was like, "Hey, I don't know your name, but thank you so much for coming to my party. Oh my god, I'm putting my arm around her. I'm like,
Yeah.
can I get your Snapchat?" And
Sounds like we've come up with a sixth drunk person, the Casanova.
And then the next morning, I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "What did I do?" I messaged her and I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable." And she's like, "Oh no, you were really funny." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so
Sounds like a great 21st birthday.
Yeah, actually, I do vlogs on my YouTube channel as well. So there's a whole vlog of that day on my channel right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go a little bit more on the technical side of your interviews. So me as a fan and me as someone who obviously wants to do this as well. What kind of equipment do you use for your interviews?
So right now, look, when the pandemic happened, I knew I needed to like step things up. And we all thought this was going to be 2 weeks, right? Remember that in March when we're like, oh yeah, if we all like stay in our homes for 2 weeks, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
So at first I was just using my laptop and like using my AirPods. And then I realized, okay, like we got to step things up a little bit. So I'm using the Shure SM7B, which is, I think, the best mic that you could buy. It's the same one Joe Rogan uses, the same one like every podcaster uses. And I mean, it sounds, as you can hear, it sounds silky smooth.
Yeah, it sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great mic. So I also upgraded my camera. I now use a webcam. So, we've got this actual webcam here that's attached to my computer because I didn't think that the camera that was attached to my computer was good enough. So I bought a Logitech C920. We're really getting intense here with the gear. And then when I do interviews in person, I use a Zoom H4n as my recording device, plugged in with a Samson, I think it's a Samson Q8X are my microphones, plugged in with an XLR cable. So like, I think that when you get to a point where this is something that you're going to be taking seriously, you want the best equipment that you can buy. When you're just starting out, I think it's important to just like do it. Just get it out there. Don't wait for the right equipment. Just get it out there, start doing it. But I think that once you've gotten to a level where it's like people expect the quality to be good, yeah, I think it's important to like take some money and invest in that because you're investing in yourself. And it's a really important thing to realize that if you sound like crap, people will think your show is crap.
Yeah.
So perception is everything. So if you sound awful, people will think you're awful. If you sound good, you can at least trick people into thinking you're good.
Yeah. Okay. It's something that I'm very, very curious, and I legit have no idea what it's called. What is that thing? What is that little on your mic when you do interviews in person? What's that little thing called that has your logo on it? I have no idea what that thing is called.
The official term is a mic flag.
Mic flag?
A mic flag.
What?
So I bought a blank mic flag. Then I had a sticker printed out and just put the sticker on the side of it. But yeah, that's a big TV thing. You would never go to a red carpet with I would call it a naked mic. You would never go with just a mic.
Right.
You would want, it's a flag to let everybody know, oh, that person's with, Fox News, CNN, CBS, whatever.
Yeah, awesome. Before we continue, thank you so much I appreciate sharing the equipment you use. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna copy you, but as a fan, I'm curious what you used.
Well, you can't go wrong. Oh, I forgot one aspect of it. The Shure SM7B is fantastic, but it's an XLR mic, and without getting too technical, you can't plug an XLR directly into a computer. So you need, I honestly don't even know what this is called. It's the Focusrite Scarlett 1. So the XLR plugs into this. This then has a USB that goes out and plugs into your computer.
Yeah, like me, I'm just using this Blue Yeti, and this one just connects.
Blue Yeti's a great mic. Yeah. And before I had this, I had the Samson Satellite, which is a great USB mic to plug directly in my computer. And before that, I had the Rode Pod mic, which I think might be the best bang for your buck. $99 for a really, really good mic with an internal pop filter in it. Boy, this is getting real nerdy here. But,
no, dude. When it comes to sexy stuff,
I really think that, again, success leaves clues. If Joe Rogan and every other like major podcaster is using this thing, I probably should be using it too.
Yeah. Same thing with my vlog camera that I use. So my first vlog camera was my iPhone 4.
Okay, yeah.
You know, then it was my iPhone 5. Then I got what's it called? A Canon PowerShot one. It was like $100. And then now I currently use a G7X.
Oh,
So
perfect.
yeah, you know, so and I got the G7X because all the vloggers that I was watching, that's the camera that they used.
Yeah.
So I was like, same thing like you said. If they got that, and I should probably get it too.
I still record the video of my interviews, my long interviews in person. I still record on my iPhone 11 because any of those great DSLRs, they will shut off after 30 minutes because they're not video cameras. They're photo cameras. And this will record till your phone gets full. I mean, I've recorded 2-hour interviews on there.
Yeah, well, man, you must have a bunch of storage on your phone. I record like 10 seconds and it says storage is full.
I have had a few times. Where like we're in the middle of a sentence and I look over the camera and it's like iPhone storage full. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. Let me just give me a second here. Let me figure this out and we'll just edit it out. It'll be cool. Ugh, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah. All right, I want to play a quick little game with you. Actually, I don't even know if you would call it a game. But anyways,
sounds like Saw. I want to play a game.
Oh my God! Hey, Saw are some great movies.
Oh, love the Saw franchise.
Yeah. Before we get into the game, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Horror movies.
We're on the subject.
First of all, my favorite movie of all time is the greatest movie of all time, Back to the Future. Horror movies. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with the first Saw. Oh, first Saw is so good. I have a real soft spot for Scream because I was the audience. I was 13, I think, when that came out. I was genuinely scared of that movie. And then when you look back at it now, it's brilliantly done. Halloween, Michael Myers is terrifying. The first Friday the 13th gave me nightmares forever. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, both of them. Oh, so good. Okay, here we go.
All right, so here we go. So this game, I call it the hot rod seat. So basically, I'm going to put a minute on the clock. I'm going to rapid fire some questions at you, and you just answer them as fastly and as honestly as you can.
Okay. This is for sure a game, by the way.
Oh, okay, for sure. All right, here we go. Let me just get my questions real quick. All right, and I'm gonna use the timer on this to put the minute on the clock because nobody here is gonna put a minute on the clock for me. All right, here we go. Chris Van Vliet, you are in the hot rod seat. Ready and go. If you could close one fast food place because of nasty food, what would you pick?
Arby's.
Everybody says Arby's. What are you terrible at?
Ooh, most things. Oh my God. Answering questions like this.
Cats or dogs?
I grew up with cats, so I love both, but I'll say cats.
All right. What is one food you will never give up besides pizza?
Chicken wings.
All right. Childhood celebrity crush?
Kristen Cavallari.
Secret hidden talent?
I can play the guitar.
Oh, what? Hey, me too. Hey, that's right.
Yeah.
Favorite song?
Oh my gosh. Of all time?
Yep.
LFO Summer Girls.
Your go-to karaoke song?
I Can Show You the World. Aladdin.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad? All right, man. Damn, I don't think you play guitar.
Yeah, and by the way, that LFO Summer Girls, you know the song I'm talking about? You're probably too young.
I think so, yeah. Dude, I've heard.
New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick. That song it gives me the feels. You were probably 2 when that came out.
Probably, yeah. But I mean, who hasn't heard all the old school music by now? I mean,
that's true.
I mean, some of my favorite songs are songs that I wasn't even born yet. When you know, so I mean, music. I love music, man. I was just about to say something. I lost my train of thought.
It's gone.
Lost my train of thought. I was about to say something. Oh my God, it was. I'm after this interview, I'm gonna be like, I remember what I was gonna ask him. I remember. Okay, is there a song or music genre that people like? Okay, song or music genre that people wouldn't think you'd like?
I am so into pop punk.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't like, look, I'll listen to anything. Like my playlist has hip hop to pop music to country to rock, everything. But I think that people would be surprised at the depth of my knowledge when it comes to pop punk music. And that was the soundtrack to like my high school and college days. We're talking Yellow Card, Starting Line, Blink 182, Sum 41, Hawthorne Heights, Census Fail, Dangerous Summer. I can just keep listing off all these bands that I love, but Good Charlotte. Yeah. So this is that. I think that would surprise people. Like I've been to more of those types of concerts than anything else.
Awesome. Last couple questions before we wrap things up. What are some of your favorite foods, like snacks or food in general?
I am a sucker for salt and vinegar chips.
Oh, okay.
And I had the biggest sweet tooth for the longest time. Like I was the guy that would go to the movies and buy the big bag of Sour Patch Kids, and before the movie was halfway done, like I'd finished the bag, and then my tongue was doing that thing because you eat too many sour, candies. So I actually had to like wean myself off of sugar because I would eat so much candy. And now I'm happy to say that I am a recovering sugar addict.
And what's something about you that we may not know that might surprise us?
So I think people are surprised by the fact that I play guitar. And I was in a band in college. I was in a band in college called The Band.
Oh, yeah, right.
The Band. But I also think that like my passion for bass fishing, I think really blows people away, especially when you look at my Instagram when I'm wearing suits and hanging out on red carpets. And then you juxtapose that with the fact that I, owned a Ranger bass boat and was out on Lake Okeechobee every weekend. I think that really blows people away.
Awesome. Yeah, I was when I was in middle school, I was in a band too. I was in two bands, but fairly the same members. My first band was called Against the System, and my second band was called Which Way Up.
Oh, Which Way Up sounds like a punk band for sure.
Yeah, we played a lot of rock. Yeah, we played. It was fun. It was fun. I had like long hair and everything because I wanted to be a rock star at the time. Yeah, like honestly, my goals and my passions have changed like so much like throughout my life. But I mean, I don't want to live with that regret. Like, oh, I should have tried this. I should have tried that. So I've tried a bunch of stuff, growing up.
And now you're doing it, man. That's the thing I love. I love that you're doing it instead of just being like, oh, it'd be really cool if one day I, did this. So look, I think in an alternate world, the band could have opened up for Which Way Up.
Yeah. So I wasn't gonna say this because I didn't want to sound like, I don't want to sound like I was, kissing up, but I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna say as a fan to you, when I first started this podcast, I wasn't going to be interviewing people. When I started this podcast, it was honestly supposed to be about me just telling my life stories because I thought they were funny, entertaining. And then a year or so later, I've been watching your channel, and I was like, man, like this guy's legit. This guy's badass, And next thing you know is I've been following this wrestler, and she's like super, like, I'm not gonna say she's unknown, but like, less than 5,000 followers,
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I was just curious. I was like, can I interview you for my podcast? So that was my first ever interview. And when after it happened, I'm like, huh, I just interviewed a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh. I'm like, whoa. And the next thing, so now, I've interviewed James Ellsworth. I've interviewed TJP, Amber Nova, and a few other indie wrestlers. And so, yeah, Chris, honestly, I got to say, the purpose of my podcast has changed because of you, man. Like, you literally, This is because of you, man. So thank you so much, man. Like, you know that phrase, never meet your heroes? Yeah, those people are wrong, man.
Oh my God. Well, thank you. Thank you that I, for saying that. And if I could inspire you in just like one tiny little way, wow. I'm really humbled to hear that. So you're doing great stuff, man. And again, perception is reality. Your show sounds like $1 million, which therefore makes you sound like $1 million. So congrats.
Thank you. The only time I got like kind of like I was like, damn you, Chris. It's a funny story right here. So my favorite women's wrestler is Deonna Purrazzo. So I sent her an email, because I got a cameo from her too, and she shouted out my podcast too. And then she was like, "Oh, hopefully we can set up an interview." And I'm like, "Maybe it's possible." So I sent her an email, And then 2 weeks, and I, I didn't get a response. 2 weeks later, you announced you're going to interview her. And I was like, ah! I was like, damn you, Chris.
She's great. She's everything you want her to be.
Yeah. So right now, that's at the top of my list right now.
I think that could happen.
Yeah.
Maybe for that one, you got to go through Impact to make that happen.
Yeah. So that's like definitely at the top of my list right now. Is I want to interview her. One thing that I'm kind of like right now is I feel like when I reach out to people, since my podcast obviously isn't that big or big at all, is the fear I have is like the people that I reach out to, they're gonna look at my stuff or my social media or anything, and they'll be like, oh, this guy's just he's not a big podcast, so like they won't take me seriously. I think that's my fear right now.
Well, look, I think that if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
True. Yeah.
So I think it's important to ask, and if they say no or they don't respond, fine, you shot your shot. But I think it's really important anytime you reach out to somebody to present this in a way that like shows value for them. Obviously, this is important for you. Obviously, it's going to be great to have someone, give you an hour of their time. It's obvious what the value is for you. But I think if in your pitches, you can start to show people what the value is for them, that's when you'll start to win over a lot of people, because it's so easy to say, hey, do you want to come on my show so I can do an interview with you? What's in it for them? And I think it's important to start to flip the script a little bit, show them what's in it for them. And then they go, oh, well, I'd be a dummy to say no to that.
Again, I don't want to say I'm copying your style, but I take a lot of inspiration from you, because I do like your style, even though we talked about style earlier, dude. Like, again, you're such a big inspiration, man.
Oh my God. Well, that means so much to me. So thank you. And look, I just want to be able to show people that like, this is possible. Sure. I have a background where I've been on TV for the last 15 years, and that helps for sure. But we now live in a world where you can make a podcast, you can make a YouTube channel with this supercomputer that sits in your pocket.
Yeah.
And instead of thinking about doing it, instead of dreaming about doing it, literally take your phone out, hit record, and start doing this thing. And that's exactly what you've done, Roddy. So my hat's off to you. Even though I'm not wearing one, my hat is off to you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much, man. Like, dude, seriously, again, I'm gonna steal one of your lines right here. I appreciate you making this happen, man. But now I'm gonna use my own words. I really appreciate you, man. Like, I know we've been at this for an hour, man, dude. I know you're super busy, man. So the fact that you took time to be on my show, man, dude, I'm grateful as hell, man. I am grateful. Like your shirt. Be grateful, man. Like, dude, it's right there. Oh, what?
Be great.
And be grateful. Look at that. Oh yeah. So, dude, I am super grateful, man. Like, I hope one day you, me, and Greg, we get to go out to LA, and have a beer or something. But if for whatever reason this is the only time I get to speak to you, dude, I am super grateful. I will never forget this day, man.
I'm grateful to you. Thank you for reaching out and wanting to share some of your time with me. So I'm excited to see what you do, man. The future is super bright for you.
All right, Crystal. Thanks once again, man. And let's get a beer, man.
Let's do it, man. Cheers.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much, man.
All right, man. Be well.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That is going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Once again, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Search the Rodcast Podcast Show. Subscribe now. I never miss an episode. Guys, that is going to be it from me today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.